Hello and welcome to an Autodesk Simulation TV 2-minute tip. My name is James Herzing and we're going to be looking at using the layered mesh. So you can see in the meshing dialog that there are 4 solid meshes available. First, there's a brick and tet mesh, which is the default mesh that we go to that you're all accustomed to seeing. You can use an all tetrahedra mesh, a boundary layer mesh, which we only use for our fluid flow analyses, and then what we're really going to be focusing on, the layered mesh of thin parts. Now, why are we going to use this? Well, this is primarily for very thin parts that need enough solid elements through the thickness to give accurate results. If we jump over to the software, alright, so in the software, you can see that we have a relatively thin part, especially compared to the length and width of the part. So we want to have as many elements through the thickness as possible. If we click on the Mesh tab, and then click on the 3D Mesh Settings button, we're going to click on Options, and then click on Solid. Here we're going to see the 4 different options that we had discussed earlier. We're going to start by using the brick and tetrahedra default mesh. So let's click OK, and then mesh the model. When we do so, you're going to see that although we have a fairly nice surface mesh on the model, it really isn't acceptable for our analysis. You can see that there's only one element through the thickness. This is kind of crappy. We want more elements in there. So let's try it with the tet mesh. Tets are usually smaller, so maybe we'll fit more into that small thickness of the part. So if we go back into the mesh dialog, we can choose all tetrahedra, click OK, and remesh the model. Again, when we do this, we get our successful mesh. It looks alright. You can see there's more elements in it, but not necessarily more through the thickness of this thin part. So what are we going to do? One more mesh, and this time we're going to use the mesh for our thin parts. The last option on there, and you can see that a layered mesh tab shows up. If we click on that, you can choose how many layers that you want to add. Let's put 3 in there. Our general rule of thumb is to have 3 elements through the thickness. Let's just click OK and press the Mesh Model button. Again, you're going to see a very nice surface mesh, but this time, if we zoom in, you're going to be able to see that we have 3 elements through the thickness. So what's this mesher doing? Basically, putting a mesh on a collapsed part and then just expanding that out into 3 layers. So we have the exact same mesh on all of those elements the whole way through. So again, this is best used for very thin parts when you want to have multiple layers through it to get accurate answers with your solid elements. That's all we have for our layered mesher. Should be simple enough to use. If you have any trouble with it though, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.